I call this debate to order. I'm pleased to welcome you to the Richmond Bridge House Library debate. The topic being debated today is this House would support censorship. The government side here consists of the first speaker, Jessica Dai, who is the Prime Minister, and the second speaker, Jenny Liu, who is the honorable member. Arguing the opposition's case consists of its first speaker, honorable member of the opposition, Dan Liu, and second speaker, Laura Chen, the leader of the opposition. Now, the judges of this debate are Susan Kosh, Dawn of the Richmond Review, Joan Stuchner, and Eve Edmonds. The first speakers of each team will speak for 5 minutes, and the speaker will speak for 8 minutes. The first speaker of each team will also get a 3-minute reply speech. Points of information will be allowed during the constructive speeches only, but not during the first and the last minute of each of the speeches. This timekeeper, Mrs. Coyle, or Jenny Coyle, will indicate how much speaking time is remaining by hand signals. 15 minutes grace will be allowed. Yeah, sorry. The timekeeper will bang the desk after the first minute and again with 1 minute warning to signal the time during which points of information may be raised. After each speech, I will immediately call upon the next debater to begin her address. There will be no points of order or points of privilege. Heckling is also unallowed. Now, judges will not confer with each other until after they have scored the debate. And now, I call upon the Prime Minister to deliver her speech, including a definition of the question.
Hello. Good afternoon, judges, ladies and gentlemen, worthy opponents and fellow delinquent. Today, said government would like to bring forth an issue and also a question that is of major importance to our present-day society, to our generations to come, and to you. Now, this issue, as most of you are familiar with, is a topic of censorship. Now, what is this censorship we are talking about? Side government would like to define this resolution as censorship in Canada by the state pertaining to the internet and including social media. And today, this House would support the censoring of the internet and social media. The focus of our debate today is purely on the principle of censorship, revolving around the philosophical idea of whether censorship of the internet and social media is beneficial to our society today. Now, ladies and gentlemen, side government would like to bring to you this case, the 3 main points. I'll be speaking about the government's role in censorship. My partner later on will be speaking to you about disinformation, misinformation, and saving today and future generations from exposure to negative influence, propaganda, and things that they're not emotionally or mentally stable enough to handle. Now, side government strongly believe that it is a government's mandate to do whatever it is within their power to protect its citizens. And if censorship is the only way to do so, then we must enforce it. Censorship is useful in hiding sensitive military information which could be used by an enemy state. Here's an example. Some of you might have heard of Edward Snowden, who was a former CIA employee and former National Security Agency contractor who disclosed a large number of top secret operational details of the NSA to several media outlets. The leaked documents revealed operational details of a global surveillance apparatus run by the NSA. Some people call him a hero, but side government sees him as a traitor, and will tell you why. The disclosure of this information puts Americans at risk. It shows their adversaries what their capabilities are. And it is a giant violation of the law. Snowden took an oath. He violated the oath. He violated the law. Yes.
Are you aware that the covert military operation revealed involved the American government working against its people?
Yes, thank you for that, PLI. Yes, we do see that, but we believe that individual liberty should be sacrificed if the government believes that doing so will benefit the society. Now, moving on. Now, what does this have to do with the internet? The internet was invented to be a tool. It was there to aid human beings, but we side government have come to see it as a weapon. And it is a weapon that cannot be easily destroyed. It cannot even be controlled. The internet is an unlimited forum where like-minded people share thoughts, ideas, and information. But when there's no one who controls what is being posted, that is where the trouble begins. Now, pause for a moment and consider this. As a rapidly advancing technology comes into direct relations with your future generations, it is an unstoppable force. There is no denying it. Technology is the way of the future. The human mind also is like clay, especially at a young age. It takes the shape of whatever it absorbs. What would our future look like? Well, I'll tell you this. If we don't start censoring the internet, the social media, then our future does not look bright. Think about the internet. There are good things and there are bad things. The bad things are pollution. It's just like in this world. If we don't stop the pollution, it will slowly grow. It will slowly take over our world, which is why we must stop it as soon as possible. We must take the reins. We must do something. Now, side government strongly believes that this is why we should propose this case. This House would censor the internet and the social media. Thank you.
I now call upon the honorable member of the opposition to deliver her main address, challenging any definitions in issue.
First of all, I'd like to thank my colleagues on the government side for their wonderful and interesting speech. Now, before I begin my constructive case and the opposition's constructive case, I'd like to refute and deconstruct some of the government's points. So, the government brought forward two contentions today. The first one is that citizens can be protected through censorship, since individual liberty must be sacrificed for society, for the good of society. And their second contention was that the internet is an uncontrollable weapon, therefore it must be censored. Now, the opposition believes that if individual liberty is sacrificed for the good of society, this would not fit in with Canadian values. We would lose the sense of who we are as Canadians, because our government is a democracy. Democracy is the government by the people for the good of the people, which means the government also has a duty to protect individual liberty. Now, the government also brought up an interesting case here, the thing with Snowden. Well, as I stated in my POI, the military operation revealed by Snowden was actually involving the government working against the people. This information was censored from the people, and it was used so the government could look over all their private information. This censorship actually brings more harm than good, which is something I will expound on further in my speech. So, finally, the government said that the internet is a weapon. Well, my partner will go on later to talk about the benefits of the internet and how it is not a weapon. Instead, it is a force for good. So now, onto my constructive speech. Ladies and gentlemen, how would you like to live in a country where the government is dictating what you can or cannot see and what you may or may not think? That is the future if this resolution will comes to pass. So today, the opposition will bring to you four main points. I will be speaking about how censorship violates the rights of people and how it causes more harm than good, while my partner will talk about how there are better alternatives to censorship and how that the internet and social media, contrary to what the government believes, are actually forces for good. So, my first point today is that censorship violates the rights of people. Canada is a democratic country, and as I said, it was government by the people. The government is elected from the people. They do not have a right to control the people, dictating what they could think, what they could see, what they could read. So, what is really happening here if we allow censorship is that we're violating a lot of the fundamental rights of people. First of all, it violates the United Nations Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which is ratified by Canada, meaning we have promised to uphold this declaration. It also further violates a section in our own constitution, the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. It violates our fundamental rights. It violates our freedom of speech, our freedom of expression, communication, and the freedom of conscience, which is the right to hold, consider, and think about viewpoints independently of others. What I'm going to say here is that the government does not have the right, because as outlined in our constitution, they have the right to protect our freedom of thought and and conscious and communication, which is what the internet is intended for. The internet is a forum, a public forum that is free and liberal, and we should keep it that way by not censoring it. Yes?
Are you aware that people can easily abuse their freedoms?
The POI brought up is that people can easily abuse their freedoms. Yes, which is why there are limits in the freedoms, such as if someone keeps on ranting racist, hate literature on the internet, if they belong in our country, and if they publicize those things, the government can and will prosecute them for hate crimes. Now, this, my partner will go on further. My second point is that censorship causes more harm than good because it gives the government more power over the people. What would this control bring? Well, we need to think to historical examples, such as the rise of Hitler. He controlled the people through propaganda and censoring of information. We can also look at literature, such as George Orwell's 1984, which is about a dystopian world where the government controls a lot of things. And what would the control bring? Well, we'll probably end up like a country, like North Korea, if we go all the way with censorship. There will be a stagnation of ideas because we lose a valuable forum to exchange things on science, to exchange information on technology, the market, and all those wonderful things that make Canada the country that we are. And that is why the opposition believes that the resolution, this House would censor the internet and social media, must and will fall, because it is definitely, most definitely not in the interest of the people or the country. Thank you.
I now call upon the honorable member to render her constructive remarks.
Thank you, moderator. We are living at the climax of humanity. Technology has brought the world together in a single body, and we are exposed to such a variety of information and knowledge that is unprecedented by any other age before us. That could potentially damage us. The question we must ponder upon is what causes this damage. Problems we are dealing with today result greatly from the new outbursts of insights that are not filtered properly. New freedoms, such as freedom of speech, which were mentioned by a side proposition, are surely valuable, but they tend to be misused. We lack a form of protection on the cases of these misuses, and that is precisely why side proposition firmly proposes a resolution. Censorship is indeed a good thing. Now, good afternoon, honorable judges, worthy opponents, and ladies and gentlemen. Before continuing side proposition's case today, allow me to indicate the logical fallacies of the points that side opposition has laid out. Now, side opposition stated that democracy has a duty to protect individual liberty and freedom of thought. Well, isn't the government also having a duty to protect its citizens from the great outbursts of insights that could potentially damage their citizens' minds? For example, you would obviously give up your phone for your mom because you're abusing your right. You're using your phone too much. So aren't you supposed to give it up for your own good? It's just like saying you should give up your own goods for the greater good of other people as well. And also, side opposition also stated that Hitler controlled people through censorship. Well, however, in our modern society, democracy is the way to go. And we are not using dictatorship as Hitler once did. So that point is quite invalid. Yes.
What I meant was that Hitler started his control of Germany by using censorship of the people, because Germany started out also as a democracy earlier, before Hitler took over.
Thank you. But the reason why Hitler was a very, very bad leader was not because of the censorship that he imposed, and it was mainly due to Hitler's beliefs that Jewish people were far inferior than the German. And that's why censorship, in most cases, such as Napoleon, who used censorship as well, and he was also a dictator, but it was due to his different ideals from Hitler that resulted in Napoleon being much more successful. So, the two main points that I will be talking about today are as follows. First, how censorship can prevent misinformation, disinformation, and propaganda. And second, the negative influence it has on individuals. Before we continue on with the first point, let us consider the analogy of a glass of unfiltered water. How can we consume water that is filled with impurities and unsanitary particles that are a detriment to our health? We need some sort of filter to ensure that the general population will not be polluted with misinformation and disinformation. The internet is like the dirty water, and the censorship is the filter that we must have. Now let us continue on to the first point. There are many sources of disinformation and misinformation on the internet. For example, Wikipedia. It is the online encyclopedia that anybody can access and edit. Many students do their research on Wikipedia and end up getting information that may not be accurate or true. Also, has anybody in the audience ever heard of the Pacific Northwest tree octopus? No one? Oh well. If you don't know about it, it's actually an internet hoax that happened a few years ago, which a person called Lyle DeBanto created a fake Wikipedia article about the Pacific Northwest tree octopus. And many people believed in such an octopus that could climb trees. It shows how our trust for the internet is too strong. We rely too much on the sources that may not even be correct. If we had censorship over the internet, then it will serve as protection for students. Students will be able to only access the correct and accurate study materials instead of the hoaxes such as the Pacific Northwest tree octopus. Also, propaganda will ensue if there's no protection over the internet and social media. For example, online shopping can become very dangerous. People will not know whether or not the products that they are buying are truly worthy or not. It is important for us to ensure that people will not spread false information and making the victims do things that are not beneficial for them. Censorship will prevent the spread of inaccurate and over-exaggerated claims about their products. And also furthermore, if we do not apply censorship, disinformation will ensue. Too much information, especially in negative areas, are very detrimental. For example, students who are able to find ways to cheat drug tests online. There are also online tutorials to teach you how to make bombs and acquire marijuana or any other drug illegally. So how can we allow such things online? It will not only provide horrible information, but also influence young children to do the same when they are older, which leads on to the next point of how, without censorship, the internet is a bad encouragement to individuals. Let us consider the children and teenagers of today. Technology is going to go out of control. Every day, we see teenagers on their cell phones, children playing games on their iPads, and etc. They also do great amounts of their research on the internet because it is so easily accessed. Ladies and gentlemen, so easily accessed. Couldn't that potentially be a threat? Young minds are like clay and can easily be shaped. It is very easy for anybody to publish anything on the internet, and it is very easy for our children or adolescents, our future, to access that published material that may or may not be correct. They are not emotionally unstable enough and mentally stable enough to handle most of the information online, and early exposure could lead to horrendous results, which I will later elaborate upon. Consider Google. Just one Google search can result in billions of results on the web, and half of these results are not even reliable. Censorship can cut down these results by a lot and leave only the useful and good information. Furthermore, what will become of children who are early exposed to pornography? Early exposure will result in horrendous crimes. For example, let us consider the most well-known American serial killer of all time, Ted Bundy. When he was asked why he did all the violent things he did, such as rape, murder, and harassment, he replied that it was due to the early exposure of pornography he had at an extremely young age. This proves how badly pornography or any negative information on the internet can influence children. Even if children are not necessarily influenced and have a sense of right or wrong, it will give them fear. So why pollute someone's mind? There's no point. It's just abusing young people's trust on the internet. Wouldn't you agree?
Would you think that, no, actually I don't agree, because I believe that it's the parents' responsibility to determine whether the child should or should not watch whatever they were watching on the internet.
Thank you, but not every single parent knows that they have that responsibility. For example, there are many parents who feel like they don't have to guard their children on the internet because maybe their children are behaving differently in real life instead of the things that they do on the internet. No, thank you. Lastly, let us look at how the internet is a bad encouragement for negative people. Imagine that you are a cannibal. You are looking for other cannibals. In real life, you have never met any other cannibal, but you have finally realized that the internet holds many things, and there are all sorts of different people on the internet, and all kinds of people. You decide to search extensively on cannibals, to murder them and eat them. People are sacrificing themselves for enjoyment, and they are willing to die for cannibals to eat them. The cannibals are more than happy to do that, and they meet up on a date for one human to eat another human. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry to say that this cannibal website is actually a true source. It is called the Cannibal Cafe Forum. If you wish, you may search it up online. It shows how sick-minded people may be. Thankfully, it has been closed down, but it gave the message to cannibals that cannibalism is actually normal and that other people are doing it as well, which leads them to the thought that they are allowed to do it as well. They will continue to do what they are doing because others are doing it online. Not only is this present in cannibalism, but there are such sites in existence. If there are such sites in existence, then anything else can be present. We must enforce censorship on such things to protect ourselves and protect others. Now, what have I told you today? I've told you that censorship will prevent misinformation, disinformation, and propaganda. There are many sources of disinformation and information, for example, Wikipedia, and the uncensored internet has a negative influence. Thank you.
I will now call upon the Leader of the Opposition to present her main speech.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for allowing RC Palmer's debate team to join you today, and thank you, judges, for volunteering your time to work with us today. I would also like to thank the side government for their wonderful speech. Now, before I begin the speech, I would like to discuss what the resolution is presented us here today. It's this House would censor the internet and social media. Now, a side opposition will believe that this resolution must and will fall because the practice of censorship limits the freedom of speech, the press, and expression, and that these limitations are ultimately a detriment to the society. The internet is in fact more beneficial than is harmful. Now, before I get into the nitty-gritty constructive of my speech, I'd like to talk a little bit of what the government has said today. So they mentioned three main points. The first point is how the government have a moral duty to protect its citizens from harmful sites. Their second point was how the government here may legitimately limit free speech due to hate speech or disinformation. And their last point is about how the media is an extensive form and how the internet should be subject to regulation just as other forms of media are. Now, looking into their first point, how governments have a moral duty to protect its citizens. Well, we believe that the internet is actually more of a beneficial source of information. It has a lot more of a powerful force than it does of harm. Because we see that we really like, as side opposition, we really like to question who has the authority, who has the power to control what's going to be on the internet. Because if the government's the one controlling what's going on the internet, they're going to only let the citizens see what they want us to see. And we believe as a democratic society, that is not the case. Now, looking into their second point of how the government here may legitimately limit free speech. We believe that this is actually outright banning, the fact that the government is outright banning this kind of prejudice does not directly tackle the situation. Actually, they're kind of avoiding the situation. And a better way for the government to tackle this this problem is to engage with the public through public forum, actually discussing with the citizens on how we can fix these reasonable flaws and instead of hiding it from the public view. In this way, those who are being attacked by the websites will see how the government actually cares about them instead of ignoring them and hiding the problem. Now, lastly, going on to the third point about how all media is already regulated, why don't we just regulate all the media? But what we believe is that the news and newspapers are already censored through editors, through publishers, but the internet is actually an opportunity for the citizens to write what they actually want to talk about. And we want to give this free information and that free expression for the citizens, because essentially the internet is by the people and for the people, and we want to keep it that way. Now, going on to my constructive speech. Now, there's this quote said by Abraham Lincoln. He said that government of the people, government by the people, government for the people. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is essentially the definition, the true definition of democracy. But censorship really is going to make the government play a paternalistic role and kind of determine what the citizens can and cannot read, can and cannot view. And this is not government by the people. This is the government controlling the people. And that is what this is what we don't want in a democratic society. My partner mentioned about how censorship is fundamentally incompatible with the notion of free speech. And now I'll talk about how there are alternative methods to censorship and how the internet has so much more to offer. Now, going on to my first contention about how there are alternative methods to censorship. Now, essentially, side government has already talked about what their goals are for censorship. They mentioned how they want the internet to be an easy way for people to access information, access controlled information. That way they can protect their children and protect adults from avoiding materials which may offend their personal and community standards. But what side opposition really see is that we can avoid these problems. We can actually achieve these goals that censorship, that government believes censorship can actually achieve through using software programs that parents can use, and through just basically educating the citizens. We know that the parents' job is to monitor what their children are watching and what they're reading, but we believe that it's not the place for the government to decide what the parents are going to teach them. Because there are these software programs that can ban them from watching pornography, ban them from watching violent acts, and at that certain age where they're mature enough to make those right decisions, make those decisions as to whether it's right or wrong, then these citizens will be able to make that decision. Now, if we actually look at the status quo, Canada is a country free from censorship, and we don't see that our citizens are all corrupt. We don't see that. So we believe that censorship really isn't necessary in society. Now, going on to my second contention about how the internet has so much to offer. The internet is growing at a fast rate. We have huge resources, we have mass communication, and we see that information can be distributed easily, quick, and at minimal cost. You can see that by how different current events are going viral just like that. From Miley Cyrus's twerking at the MTVs to the dire situation of the civil war in Syria. Actually, they say that the social media is almost turning into a Cold War. No, not opposing military forces, but instead competing ideas about how political life should be organized. This battle is really between the broadcast media outlets controlled by authority and social media upstarts, which have very different approaches to news production, ownership, and censorship. And some of the biggest battles are in Russia, especially with their governments, especially with their leader Putin. And we see that the broadcast media is really most useful for authoritarian governments to just show the people what they want them to see. But we see that the social media, we see that the internet is really used by the citizens, and that's where they can actually monitor their government and see the true side of what's actually going on in the country. There are many different examples other than Russia, such as during the Arab Spring. It involved many countries where citizens used social media to create news stories that the dictators' broadcasters would not cover. And we also see that in Iran, they actually used Facebook to advocate their movement, their green movement. And we also see, basically more commonly in China, how their party practically owns the media. But it seems less and less, they seem to be less and less able to control the political conversation among Chinese citizens about what they truly feel about the government. The digital activism is on the rise globally, and the impact of these activist projects grows more expressive year by year. Now, to summarize this debate, I would like to really ask the audience these fundamental questions about exactly how far is too far presenting ideas, what is morally right and what is really morally wrong. Because we see that if the government is to dictate what they think is right and what is wrong, kind of makes citizens feel as if they were not respected, as if they're not capable of determining what is right and what is wrong, and determines that they have to go through the government and go through all the raw material before they can actually understand what's going on. So what have I told you today? I've told you that censorship is really fundamentally incompatible with the notion of freedom of speech, because we are a democratic society, and I've also talked about how there are alternative methods to censorship, and how the internet has so much more to offer through so many different political actions, so many political activists, and in many countries they're already doing it today. So that is why this resolution, this House to censor the internet and social media, must and will fall. Thank you.
There will now be a 2-minute pause for organizing rebuttals.
Good timing on my part.
I now call upon the first speaker for each team to deliver a speech rebutting his or her opponents, beginning with side opposition. No new constructive argument or evidence may be introduced at this time except for by way of refutation.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, the cat's out of the bag. The internet's been around for such a long time and it's been free in Canada for so long that censoring it as of now, and even in principle, is just absurd. So, let's talk about something. If you ban something, if you don't allow, say, a child to do a certain thing, like take that cookie out of the cookie jar, what do you think the child's gonna do? As soon as you turn your back, they're gonna go get that cookie. They're going to do exactly the opposite of what you want them to do. So what we think here is that by censorship, we're actually making the internet more alluring, and we're encouraging people to do illegal activities, such as, in the case of China, getting a program that will allow them to go over the firewall and access the outside internet. So the opposition today feel that the government is overreacting. As my partner has stated, the vast majority of the internet and the social media are very good. They're used for good purposes such as education and social activism. We feel that censorship is just a pretext for the government to extend their control over other aspects of people's lives under the guise of protecting the people. We feel that censorship is really just a grab for control by the government. So, what does the opposition support? Well, the opposition, what we support fundamental rights. We support the freedom of speech, thought, and conscience. We support alternative methods such as education in lieu of censorship. We support free access to online information, and we support an international free and public forum. What we don't support are the stagnation of ideas by control. We don't support sacrificing individual liberty, especially the freedom of thought, to the government. We don't support the government controlling a global public forum, and we don't support limits to creativity and knowledge. How far is too far? Well, the opposition believes that the government's proposal of censoring the internet just because of certain misinformation, a small portion of misinformation, disinformation, and bad immoral knowledge hidden in the far corners of the internet is going too far. We believe that their proposal to censor the internet and the social media over small isolated incidences is going too far. And this, at the end of it, is why the opposition believes that this resolution, this House would censor the internet and social media must and will fall. Thank you.
I call upon the Prime Minister to deliver her concluding speech.
The internet. It's a tank that's been slowly filling up, dirt and all. And we, side government, strongly believe that we should filter out that dirt. Now, this debate has been a heated one, and it's nearing its end. We, side government, has come to see side opposition's case, and we boiled them down to 2 points: the violation of the rights of people, and how the internet causes more harm than good. Now, starting with the violating rights of the people. We believe that individual liberty should and can be sacrificed if the government believes that doing so will protect the citizens. Do you not agree that if these rights are interfering with our society, with our safety, then we should change them? They mentioned status quo. We should follow status quo. But we need to challenge it when we feel that the situation arises to. Yes, not everyone is corrupted, but as they also mentioned, the internet and information spreads so fast that this buildup of information will eventually turn against us. Now, side opposition also brought up an interesting question of who has the authority to censor and control what we know, censor the internet. They gave the definition that democracy is government by and for the people. And they said that censoring the internet is a form of government control, but we, side government, believe that it is that doing so is for the safety of our citizens. They say free speech. Free speech is valid. Yes, we believe that everybody should be able to say what they want, but there is a limit, and there is a time when we go too far, and we must stop that. We side government believes that we should stop this problem before it gets out of hand, before it gets out of control. Now, side opposition wants you to believe that censoring the internet is bad, is a form of government control. But we believe that side government is protecting our citizens through this. We believe that this censoring internet causes more benefits than harm. Now, we would like to remind you of side government's contentions. What have we told you? We have told you that it is a government's mandate to do whatever it can within its power to protect its citizens. And if censoring is the way to do so, then we must enforce it. My partner has also talked about the unlimited information, the knowledge, good or bad, that's available on the internet. We have also talked about saving today and future generations from exposure to the negative influence, propaganda, and things that children, adolescents, and even adults are not emotionally or mentally stable enough to handle. Now, this is why side government strongly believes that this resolution, this House, would support the censoring of the internet and social media must and will stand. Thank you.
Would the judges please complete the score sheet, and I'll come and collect them.
Oh, just let, I wonder, do you want him to? We'll think about this for a minute. Just let him finish the score sheet. Well, I mean, I'm assuming that it's not going to be tied. They're really good. I mean, I'm just so proud that they're such good sneakers. They're all like immigrant students too. It just blows my mind. Isn't that fantastic?
You didn't make it. That seems like it. It's awesome.
Oh yeah. Yeah. How about we do the adjudication first? I don't know. How do you think we should do that?
I don't know. In order to I just wanted to give a copy of this.
Okay, I'll have a look at it, and then I'll give it right back to you. I can announce the winner instead of Morris, if there is one. Like, I'm hoping that... That's what I thought. I mean, they're much more experienced, so you can tell. But really, these kids are in grade 9. No, they're in grade 9? 9? And we've got to get some more teams in Richmond. I don't know what I have to do. I'm going only high school. I will give this back to you. No, I'm going to give it back to you, but I will announce the winner. I will. And then if you wouldn't mind, I'll give your thing back to you, and you can do it. You send me.
Yes, I think it's marginal. And there was one bigger very good at giving instructions and using relevant points to the answer.
Wait, what do you think you guys do?
Absolutely.
It's okay, I'm going to give it back to you. Okay? Okay.
Yeah, you can't hear it.
Yeah. Okay, thanks. Morris, I'm going to actually announce, okay?
Okay, first and foremost, I'd like to really shout out a thanks first to the library for organizing this. Thank you so much, Ms. Clues. Really, really well done. Thank you. Debaters love to argue and they love to show off and they love to do public forums like this. And I would love to also thank the judges for giving up their Saturday afternoon to come and be part of this. We really appreciate your support. Thank you. And I would also like to thank my lovely debaters from Palmer and Morris, the moderator. We really appreciate the effort and the work that you do on behalf of Debate and on behalf of our school. So without further ado, I would like to announce the winner. And it was fairly unanimous that side opposition won the debate.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, side opposition. But all the judges said it was very, very close indeed, and they would like to just give you a little bit of feedback on what you guys did. Thank you.
Did you want to just yell from there? Or?
Sure. Sure, I'd just like to say, I thought you were all great, and I commend you for having the guts to get up here and do it, because, you know, we were talking earlier, 90% of success is just showing up, and you showed up, you get credit for showing up. I really want to draw your attention. I thought all of you had good arguments. You clearly show that you are logical and have a thought process. What became evident on your side is just you've lived a few more years, so you were just able to pick up a greater breadth of and depth of what goes on in the world, and were able to come up with more examples. I think that was very much in your favor. So, thank you.
Yeah, I'd agree that everyone involved did a phenomenal job. I think all of us here are amazed at the fact that you're also young and you're also polished in your presentations. It's also very obvious that you guys did a great job in rehearsing, and you did a great job in inflecting your points as much as possible. Experience was also a factor in that, I thought, a little bit. But the fact that you did so much rehearsal was to be really complimented, and you did a great job in preparing your positions very well by looking at historical facts and current trends as well, and the impacts that each would have. So again, a tremendous job by both sides that you, your presentations and everyone involved.
Well, I'm loud anyway. I admire you all for doing what I would find very difficult to do. What I admire is, first of all, how articulate you all were, and that you did so much research on this, because it is very difficult. It's a very difficult issue. How much freedom should people have? How much should the government step in? It is all these are issues that have been going on for years, and forever, and they'll continue to go on. And you seem to have nailed the problems on both sides of this issue. So keep on doing this. Keep on doing this debating and researching, because you all have so much talent, and one day I hope to switch on the TV and see you in the government. Okay, congratulations all of you.
Okay, so I just had a few, I think it was just amazing. It was just great, all of them. I wanted to just, some specifics. So on that side, which is not an easy side to take, the pro-censorship, there's no doubt you've got a harder job. The way you appeal to fear and sacrifice the individual for the good of the whole, excellent. The reference to the octopus, the tree octopus, really good way to drill the point home. Also your point about the unfiltered water. I thought that was, again, is a good visual that really sticks with us. It's a great way to make your point. I thought here, I loved referencing Hitler, 1984, North Korea, all different things, not just all historical facts, but using literature in 1984, and also connecting with obviously the appeal to the human rights and the fact we've signed this declaration. And the other one, I loved the Cold War, and that this is a Cold War between social media and broadcast. And I thought that was also another way to bring the point home. I mean, this issue of censorship versus non-censorship, it's all about ways of illustrating the point that's going to resonate with us. And I thought you all did a great job. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks, kids. I'm really proud of you. Just a great job. Okay, let's just give you a big round of applause, shall we?